Elizabeth Harper had always been the fixer at PalmTech Solutions, the mid-level marketing coordinator who smoothed over client crises with a smile and a spreadsheet, turning chaos into quarterly wins. At 34, she was the picture of polished competence. Auburn waves cropped short for efficiency, freckles dusting her nose like cinnamon on Florida toast, green eyes that crinkled with empathy even during boardroom battles. West Palm Beach suited her. The city's blend of old money glamour and gritty underbelly mirrored her own life. A single apartment in City Place with ocean views she could barely afford, and a string of half-hearted dates that fizzled like fireworks on the 4th. But lately the grind had worn her down. The upcoming holiday gala felt less like a celebration and more like a spotlight on her solitude. That rainy Tuesday evening as she trudged home from a late client call, Elizabeth's path crossed with the girl in the doorway. Ella, that's what she called herself, her voice soft but steady, like the lapping waves at Peanut Island. She was 32 or so, she said, with long blonde hair matted from the rain, a faint scar tracing her left cheekbone like a whispered secret, and hands that trembled not from cold but from the weight of whatever had stripped her bare. Homeless, she admitted flatly when Elizabeth pressed, her backpack the only possession she carried, stuffed with dog-eared paperbacks and a single photo frame cracked at the edges. No family, no job, just the streets of West Palm, where the affluent retirees in their waterfront condos pretended not to see the shadows like her. Why me? Ella had asked, her blue eyes narrowing as Elizabeth draped her own wool scarf around those slender shoulders, the fabric swallowing her frame. They were walking now toward Elizabeth's car parked under a dripping palm, the air thick with salt and unspoken need. Because I've been there, Elizabeth lied, though not entirely. Her college years in Gainesville had scraped by on ramen and rejection letters, a taste of invisibility that lingered. Not like this, but close enough. And this party, it's black tie bullshit, but there's free food, open bar, and for one night you get to pretend you're one of them. No strings. Ella's laugh was brittle, like shells crunching underfoot on Clematis Street. Pretend. That's all I've ever been good at. She hesitated, glancing at the photo peeking from her bag. A faded snapshot of a younger woman smiling against a sunset, arm linked with someone blurred. But she nodded, and just like that, Elizabeth had a date. Not a real one, she told herself. No, this was charity, a kindness wrapped in curiosity. Yet as she drove Ella to the shelter on Australian Avenue, stealing glances at the way rain traced patterns on her window like tears, Elizabeth felt a spark ignite, warm and forbidden, in the hollow of her chest. The next morning Elizabeth woke to sunlight slicing through her blinds, the kind of West Palm golden hour that made you believe in second chances. She texted Ella the party details, 8 p.m. at the Breakers Hotel ballroom, dress code optional for her, and dove into work, her cubicle a fortress of mood boards and metrics. PalmTech was booming, their cybersecurity software the darling of South Florida tech, and the CEO Richard Langford was the golden boy. 45, silver fox handsome, with a reputation for ruthless innovation and a personal life as opaque as the intracoastal waterway at night. Elizabeth had met him once at the summer picnic, his handshake firm, his eyes scanning the crowd like a shark sighting blood. By afternoon, nerves buzzed under her skin. She'd picked out a black sheath dress from her closet, simple but fitted to her runner's build, and imagined Ella in something borrowed, maybe the blue sundress from her drawer, too big but flowing like the ocean breeze. Why did it matter? It was just a party. But as she prepped client gifts in the break room, her coworker Mia sidled up, latte in hand. Heard you're flying solo again, Liz. Richard's wife is coming this year, first time ever. Rumor is she's some recluse artist type. Bet she'll outshine us all. Elizabeth forced a grin, ignoring the twinge in her gut. Good for her. More champagne for the rest of us. But the word stuck, a premonition she couldn't shake. Evening fell like a velvet curtain, the breakers aglow with fairy lights strung along its Spanish Revival arches. Elizabeth arrived early, smoothing her dress in the valet line, the air humming with hibiscus and anticipation. Guests trickled in, executives in tuxes, spouses in sequins, chatting about yacht sales and Bitcoin dips. She scanned the entrance, heart tripping when Ella appeared, transformed. The shelter had magic, apparently. A simple emerald gown clung to her lithe frame, borrowed or found, who knew, its neckline modest but elegant, highlighting the graceful line of her neck. Her hair was swept into a loose chignon, the scar a delicate accent, and those blue eyes. They found Elizabeth across the crowd, lighting up with a vulnerability that punched the air from her lungs. "You look," Elizabeth breathed, crossing the marble foyer, her own heels echoing like confessions. "Like I don't belong?" Ella finished, but her smile was tentative. "Real. You clean up nice yourself, savior." They laughed, the sound bubbling up like Prosecco, and Elizabeth led her inside, arm brushing arm, a current humming between them. The ballroom was a dream. Crystal chandeliers dripping light onto linen-draped tables, a jazz quartet weaving saxophones through the chatter, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Atlantic's restless shimmer. Servers circulated with oysters on the half-shell and caviar blinis, and Elizabeth piled a plate for Ella, watching her savor each bite like it was the last. "Tell me about you," Ella said later, as they swayed on the dance floor to a slow Cole Porter tune, bodies close but not touching, the scent of her jasmine perfume, borrowed soap perhaps, mingling with Elizabeth's vanilla lotion. "Why marketing? Why here?" Elizabeth shrugged, her hand light on Ella's waist. "Grew up in Orlando theme park trash. Wanted stability, something solid. Palmtech gave me that. What about you? Before this?" Ella's gaze drifted to the waves. "I painted. Watercolors of the shorelines, abstracts that no one bought. Thought love would be my canvas." Her voice cracked just a hair, and Elizabeth wanted to pull her closer, to erase the shadows in those eyes. Instead, she spun her gently, drawing a genuine laugh that echoed like bells. Hours blurred, speeches from Richard, toasts to innovation, Ella charming Mia with tales of imagined adventures. Elizabeth felt seen, truly, for the first time in years, the party's gloss fading against the raw connection blooming between them. Until the MC announced the Langfords' entrance, and the room parted like the Red Sea. Richard strode in, impeccable in black tie, arm linked with a woman who moved like liquid grace. Blonde hair, blue eyes, emerald gown. Ella. The world tilted. Elizabeth's champagne flute slipped from numb fingers, shattering on the parquet floor like her illusions. Ella, no, this woman, extricated herself from Richard's side, her face paling as their eyes met across the divide. "Elizabeth," she whispered, but it was lost in the applause, the betrayal crashing over her like a rogue wave. The shards of glass glittered under the chandeliers like fallen stars, mocking Elizabeth as she knelt to gather them, her knees buckling under the weight of revelation. Whispers rippled through the crowd. "Clumsy much," from a tipsy VP. "Liz, you good?" from Mia, but she barely registered them, her pulse thundering in her ears louder than the quartet's crescendo. Ella, God, was that even her name? Hovered at the edge of the dance floor, her emerald gown a cruel echo of the borrowed finery Elizabeth had imagined for her street-worn companion. Richard Langford, oblivious, raised his glass in a toast, his baritone booming about family and fortitude, while his wife, stared at Elizabeth with eyes that pleaded for understanding, for mercy. She bolted upright, ignoring the sting of a cut on her palm, blood beating like tiny accusations. "Excuse me," she muttered to no one, weaving through silk-clad bodies toward the French doors, the ocean's roar her only ally. Cool night air slapped her face as she burst onto the terrace, gripping the balustrade until her knuckles whitened, the intracoastal's dark waters churning below like her thoughts. How? The backpack, the shelter drop-off, the raw hunger in her voice. It had all felt so real, so achingly human. And now? A lie, polished and perfumed, served up on a silver platter. Footsteps, soft, hesitant, heralded Ella's arrival. "Elizabeth, wait. Please." She whirled, green eyes blazing. "Wait? For what, Mrs. Langford? The part where you explain playing dress-up with the help for kicks? Or how you let me pour my soul out to a ghost?" Ella flinched, the scar on her cheek catching the moonlight, making her look younger, more fragile. "It's not God, it's not what you think. My name is Ella. Eleanor Langford, but Ella to anyone who matters. And I wasn't playing. That girl in the rain? That was me. Real as the storm." Elizabeth laughed, bitter and hollow, the sound whipping away on the breeze. "Real? You waltz in here on his arm like some trophy, after I handed you my scarf, my dress code, my heart on a platter. What was it, a dare? Bored housewife slumming it for thrills?" Tears welled in Ella's eyes, spilling over like the fountain nearby, but she didn't wipe them. "Richard. He's been gone for months. Boardroom trips to Silicon Valley. Mistresses in Miami high-rises. I found out 3 weeks ago, texts, hotel receipts. He thinks I'm the fragile flower, the artist who needs coddling, so I let him. Packed a bag, walked out. Slept in that damn bookstore because it's across from my studio, the one he never visits. I didn't plan on you. The words hung between them, heavy as the humid air, and Elizabeth's anger cracked, revealing the ache beneath. Then why come tonight? Why pretend with me? Because when you stopped, umbrella shaking, eyes like emeralds in the rain, I saw someone who saw me, not the Langford facade. For one night I wanted that. No pity, no pretense. Just us. Ella stepped closer, her hand reaching out, fingers brushing Elizabeth's bloodied palm. The touch was electric, a spark that traveled up her arm, igniting memories of their dance, the laughter, the way Ella's gaze had lingered on her lips. Elizabeth pulled away, but not far. Us? You're married. To my boss. The man who signs my checks, who could ruin me with a memo. This isn't a fairy tale, Ella. It's West Palm, where secrets sink like stones in the lagoon. Ella's shoulders sagged, the gown's fabric whispering against the stone. Marriage? It's a cage I built brick by brick. Art school in Savannah, whirlwind romance at a gallery opening. He swept me off my feet, promised the world. But it's been poses and pretenses, him climbing ladders while I fade into wallpaper. Last year I stopped painting altogether. Until tonight, watching you light up the room fierce and kind. It woke something. But I never meant to hurt you. Thunder rumbled distant, a echo of the previous night's storm. And Elizabeth felt the pull, treacherous and true. Those blue eyes held no deceit now, just a mirror of her own longing. The ache for connection in a city of transience, where palm fronds rustled empty promises. Hurt me? You did. I thought I was saving you. Turns out, I was just the fool in your plot twist. No plot, Ella insisted, voice breaking. I swear. When Richard called this morning, demanding I show face for optics, I panicked. Thought of you, the party, a way to hold on to that sliver of real. I didn't know you'd be everything. Silence stretched, broken only by the party's muffled jazz seeping through the doors. Elizabeth studied her, the faint laugh lines around those eyes, the way her fingers twisted the gown's hem, a tell of nerves. She was beautiful, yes, but broken too, like the cracked photo in her bag. And damn it, Elizabeth wanted to fix her, to trace that scar with her thumb and whisper that scars were stories, not shame. Inside, Richard's speech droned on, accolades for Ella's support, met with polite claps. The irony burned. What now? Elizabeth asked, voice softer. You go back and play the perfect wife? I fade into the cubicle. Ella shook her head, stepping into Elizabeth's space, the jasmine scent enveloping her like a memory. I end it. Tonight. With him, with the lies. But you. If you'll let me, I want to start over. No titles, no games. Just coffee on clematis, paintings in my studio. You and me figuring out what real feels like. Elizabeth's breath caught, the cut on her palm throbbing in time with her heart. Betrayal lingered, sharp as salt in a wound, but beneath it pulsed possibility. A romance born of rain and revelation, fragile as a watercolor wash. She glanced back at the ballroom, silhouettes dancing oblivious, then met Ella's gaze. One coffee. But if you ghost me again, Eleanor Langford, I'll haunt you from every beach in Palm Beach County. A tentative smile broke across Ella's face, radiant as dawn over the breakers. Deal. They slipped back inside separately, Elizabeth first, bandaging her hand in the powder room mirror, composing herself with deep breaths scented by potpourri. The party swirled on. Richard cornered her later by the bar, clapping her shoulder with that sharp grin. Great work on the Reynolds pitch, Harper. Saw you with my wife earlier. She's usually a wallflower. You must have charmed her. Elizabeth's smile was steel. Must have. She's full of surprises, your wife. He chuckled, clueless, swirling his scotch as she excused herself, heart pounding. Ella caught her eye from across the room. A subtle nod, then turned to Richard, her posture shifting, shoulders back, chin lifted. Elizabeth watched, pulse racing as Ella pulled him aside. Words lost in the din but gestures clear. Finality, fracture. Richard's face darkened, a storm cloud over his patrician features, but he nodded curtly, storming toward the exit alone. Ella stood there a moment, alone in the crowd, then wove toward Elizabeth, slipping a napkin into her hand. Studio. 10 a.m. 42nd Street, come see my colors. The night dissolved into afterglow. Shared glances over tiramisu. A final dance where hands brushed electric, promises unspoken in the sway. As the gala wound down, guests spilling into limos under the hotel's porte-cochere, Elizabeth walked Ella to her. Wait, his car, the valet hovering discreet. See you tomorrow? She asked, the question a bridge over the chasm. Wouldn't miss it, Ella replied, leaning in for a hug that lingered, cheek to cheek, breath mingling warm. No kiss, not yet, but the almost was a vow. Elizabeth drove home alone, windows down to let the salt wind scour her thoughts. The radio crooning Adele's Someone Like You, like a soundtrack to surrender. Betrayal's sting faded to a bruise, tender but survivable, replaced by a flutter of hope. West Palm's lights blurred past, neon signs on Dixie Highway, the glow of Jupiter Lighthouse piercing the dark, and for the first time she felt anchored, not adrift. Morning came humid and hazy, coffee brewing in her sunlit kitchen as she texted Mia a vague hangover excuse. The drive to 42nd Street wound through hibiscus-lined lanes, past the Society of the Four Arts where Ella's pieces might have hung in another life. The studio was a converted bungalow, peeling turquoise paint and a sign reading Langford Atelier by appointment. But the gate swung open at her knock. Ella answered in paint-splattered overalls, hair tied back with a bandana, the scar vivid in daylight. You came. Relief flooded her voice and she pulled Elizabeth inside, the space a riot of canvases. Abstracts of crashing waves in cerulean and teal, figures entwined in shadow and light, women, always women, their forms fluid, yearning. These are yours, Elizabeth breathed, tracing a finger over a piece titled Tidal Pull. Two silhouettes reaching across foam-flecked surf. All mine. The ones Richard dismissed as hobbyist fluff. Ella's laugh was lighter now, unburdened. They spent the morning like that. Coffee on mismatched stools, stories spilling. Elizabeth's Orlando girlhood, dodging tourists and dreaming of city lights. Ella's Savannah roots, magnolia-scented summers and a coming-out whispered to fireflies at 19, buried under Richard's charm by 25. He knew vaguely, Ella admitted, stirring sugar into her mug. Tolerated it as long as I played the part. But you make me want to rewrite the script. By noon conflict brewed. Not from without but within. Elizabeth's phone buzzed. An email from HR. Urgent meeting, Langford matter. Panic spiked. What did he do? Ella's face fell. Probably the divorce papers I left on his desk last night. He's retaliating. Petty but predictable. Elizabeth paced the cluttered floor, turpentine sharp in the air. My job, Ella. I can't lose it, not over this. The hurt in Ella's eyes was a knife twist. Over us? Or are you scared of the mess? It's not. Elizabeth stopped, the truth clawing up. Fear, yes, of the unknown, of loving so fiercely after so long alone. But deeper the betrayal's echo. What if this too dissolved like mist off the lagoon? I need time. To think. Ella nodded, jaw tight. Take it. But don't ghost me, Liz. That's my old trick. She left with a canvas under her arm, Tidal Pull a gift. And the drive home was turmoil, radio silent, mind a whirlwind. At Palmtech the office hummed oblivious, but Richard's glare from his glass-walled corner burned. The meeting was a farce. Veiled threats about loyalty and disruptions. Elizabeth's responses measured, professional. She emerged unscathed, but the seed of doubt took root. Days blurred into a tense limbo. Stolen texts. A lunch at Avocado Grill where Ella's foot brushed hers under the table, electric apology. Romance simmered. Sunset walks on the lake trail, hands linking tentative, kisses withheld but craved. Yet conflict festered. Richard filed motions, dragging Ella's instability into court. Whispers at the water cooler turning Elizabeth's stomach. Sleeping with the boss's ex? Mia joked once, half serious, and Elizabeth snapped, the fracture widening. One night, under a canopy of banyan trees in Norton Park, it erupted. You're pulling away, Ella accused, voice raw as they sat on a bench, fireflies winking like witnesses. Because of him? Or because I'm too broken? Elizabeth's tears came hot. Because it's real, Ella. Scary real. What if I invite you in, and you shatter me again? Ella cupped her face, thumbs tracing freckles. Then we shatter together. Human, messy, but ours. And in that moment lips met, soft, searching, a dam breaking. Salt and jasmine, the world narrowing to breath and heartbeat, the park's hush enveloping them like grace. The kiss lingered in Elizabeth's bones like the aftertaste of salt spray, a quiet revolution that reshaped her days into something luminous and laced with peril. West Palm Beach, with its perpetual summer haze and undercurrents of scandal, became their canvas-stolen afternoons in Ella's studio, where paint-smeared fingers intertwined over half-finished seascapes. Evenings at the Palm Beach Drama Works, holding hands in the shadows as indie plays unpacked the frailties of the heart. At 34, Elizabeth had chased stability like a horizon, but Ella, 32 and unraveling her own seams, taught her that love was the storm, not the shelter. Yet drama shadowed their idol, Richard's shadow lengthening like the evening tide. The divorce proceedings turned vicious. Depositions in a Clematis Street high-rise, where his lawyers painted Ella as erratic, citing her homeless episode as evidence of collapse. Elizabeth testified once, voice steady under fluorescent glare, affirming Ella's strength, the artist who'd risen from rain-slicked doorways to claim her truth. "She's not broken," Elizabeth said, meeting Richard's icy stare across the table. "She's becoming." He leaned forward, voice low venom. "Careful, Harper. Loyalty's a two-way street." The threat hung, but Elizabeth held her ground, buoyed by Ella's grateful squeeze under the table. A silent pact. Betrayal struck not from Richard but from within, from Elizabeth's own fears, manifesting in the quiet hours. A promotion dangled, senior director, her dream on a platter, but it came with strings. Relocate to the Boca office, oversee expansion, leave the studios, pull behind. She confided in Mia over margaritas at Tequesta Brewing, the bar's hoppy air thick with regret. "It's everything I've worked for, but her." Mia swirled her glass, eyes sharp. "And if you stay, you resent her for clipping your wings." Classic trap, Liz. "Love's not a cage." The words burrowed deep, sprouting doubt overnight. Next morning in Ella's sun-drenched kitchen, avocado toast and fresh squeezed juice, the ritual that grounded them, Elizabeth broached it haltingly. "The job? It's in Boca. An hour commute, maybe more with traffic. But it's a step up." Ella's fork paused midair, blue eyes clouding like the sky before a squall. "And us? We adapt. Weekends longer, calls at dawn. I've bent for less." "It's not bending," Elizabeth pressed, frustration coiling. "It's choosing. You with your paints and your freedom. Me climbing ladders that might lead nowhere if I fall." The air thickened, unspoken histories surfacing. Ella's years of compromise, Elizabeth's armored independence. "Is that what this is?" Ella whispered, scar paling against flushed cheeks. "A ladder? Or are you afraid I'll drag you down like he said?" The accusation landed like a slap, Richard's poison seeping in. Elizabeth recoiled. "No, God, no. But what if I choose wrong? What if we're the wrong?" Silence crashed, heavier than the Atlantic's breakers. Ella stood, chair scraping like a wound. "Then go. Climb. But don't look back blaming me for the height." She walked out to the studio, door clicking shut, leaving Elizabeth adrift in the wreckage of half-eaten breakfast. Days fractured. Texts unanswered, Elizabeth burying herself in spreadsheets, the Boca offer looming like a siren's call. Richard, sensing weakness, amped the charm lunches at Café Belud, veiled overtures. "Join us in the future, Harper. Leave the drama behind." She rebuffed him, but the seed of isolation took hold, whispers in the halls branding her the other woman, colleagues averting eyes in the break room. Climax crested on a sweltering Friday, the kind of Florida heat that pressed like judgment. Elizabeth drove to the studio uninvited, the bungalow's windows dark, canvases shrouded like ghosts. Panic clawed. Had Ella fled again, back to doorways in despair? She pounded the door, voice cracking. "Ella! Talk to me. Please." It opened, not to welcome but weariness. Ella stood there, overalls streaked with umber and sienna, eyes red-rimmed. "What now, Liz? Come to say goodbye properly." "No." Elizabeth stepped inside, the space a battlefield of abandoned brushes and crumpled sketches. "To say I'm terrified. Of losing you, of choosing safe over soul deep. The job? I turned it down this morning. Told HR it's not my path, not anymore." Ella's breath hitched, walls crumbling. "Why?" You fought so hard for that life. Because it's empty without you. Elizabeth closed the gap, hands framing Ella's face, thumbs tracing that scar like a map home. You weren't a lie that night in the rain. You were my truth. And yeah, it's messy divorces, dirty looks, the whole damn city watching. But I'd rather shatter with you than shine alone. Tears traced Ella's cheeks, mirroring Elizabeth's own. I thought you'd run. Like I did for years. Never. Their foreheads touched, breath sinking, and in that charged hush lips met again, not tentative but fervent, a reclamation. Hands roamed gentle, fingers in hair, palms on waists, anchoring, affirming. No rush, no heat beyond the heart's fierce burn. Just two women weaving from betrayal's threads a tapestry of trust. The storm broke outside, rain lashing the windows like applause, but inside peace settled. They talked till dawn, plans sketched on napkins. Elizabeth freelancing for PalmTech remotely, Ella's first solo show at the Armory Art Center, Elise on a cottage in Singer Island, waves their lullaby. Richard's suit dragged but settled quietly, his empire too vast for small vendettas. The whispers faded, replaced by quiet nods of respect. Months unfurled like frangipani blooms. Their first holiday together. No gala. Just a picnic on the beach at Honeymoon Island. Blankets spread under a harvest moon. Ella's watercolors capturing Elizabeth's profile against the surf. To us, Elizabeth toasted with plastic cups of rose, clinking Ella's. The homeless girl and her fool. To home, Ella countered, leaning into her shoulder. The scar a badge now, kissed often. Wherever we make it. In West Palm's embrace, gritty, golden, unforgiving, they built a life humanistic in its imperfection. Volunteering at the Homeless Coalition, where Elizabeth mentored with quiet fire, Ella teaching art to the unseen. Lazy Sundays at the Green Market, bargaining for heirloom tomatoes. Nights tangled in sheets, whispering dreams till sleep claimed them. One evening as twilight painted the sky in bruised purples, they stood on their porch, arms entwined, watching lightning dance over the horizon. Think we'll make it? Elizabeth murmured, vulnerability a threadbare coat. Ella turned, blue eyes steady as the lighthouse beam. We already have. From rain to this, it's our story, Liz. Dramatic, sure, but ours. And in that humanistic grace, the forgiveness of fractures, the romance of resilience, they kissed, the world vast and welcoming, a canvas endless.